Tonight on Crime Watch Solved. 3 incredible cases and how the police cracked them. The gang who planned the biggest robbery in British history.
You heard him! Open the door!
This would have dwarfed the Great Train robbery and the Brinksmack robbery put together.
And the gruesome murder of a young woman.
It was as if it was something he was reenacting from a horror film he had watched.
Solved by the discovery of a chilling poem. But first, the story of a woman who was every man's nightmare. Dina Thompson used sex and deception to con hundreds of thousands of pounds from a string of husbands and lovers. But her most powerful weapon was murder.
I once called Dina the Black Widow because a black widow spider will mate with its male counterpart and then kill them. And this is exactly what she's like.
It was New Year's Day. Started the morning off by having a bath.
Got a surprise for you.
What sort of surprise?
Dina said, do you mind if we play a little game? Would you mind if I tied you up? Now, this is very strange. I had never done anything like this before. I was a little bit uncomfortable. But I had no reason to doubt anything sinister, shall we say.
Richard and Dina had been married for 8 months. He was in love and trusted her completely.
Get out of the bath. Where are you off?
Where are you going, mate?
Wait and see. You're feeling adventurous, darling. Just gonna tie your hands.
She tied my hands behind my back using a leather belt. She put some tape around my ankles. And then she placed a towel over my face.
You ready for your surprise now?
And she said to me, I don't want you to see what I'm about to do.
You'll be able to feel it, won't you?
That now seems to be a very ironic statement.
Lie down. Right back.
Laying there in that what was a very vulnerable situation. I could hear rustling sounds coming from the bedroom. Seconds seemed like minutes. Something in me said, there's something maybe not quite right here. It was at that point I freed my hands. Had I not freed my hands at that moment, I would not be talking to you now. The next thing I knew was the most searing pain I can ever remember. I can still hear the sound of that bat ringing. All I can see is red. It's only when I wipe the blood from my eyes, I can see Dina standing above me with a baseball bat. I remember thinking, I'm in serious trouble here. What is happening? Very confusing. The will to survive really does kick in. Forget this was the person I was married to. I was going to die as far as I was concerned, unless I did something very drastic here. It was at that point I put my fingers in her eyes as her most vulnerable point. Something then gave, and she broke down, and she said at this point, it's all been a lie.
I've spent all your money.
I cannot believe what has just happened. This woman has turned into some kind of monster. There was no indication whatsoever until a few minutes previously.
Richard had met Dina 15 months earlier.
Oh, hi, my name's Richard. Just seen you out in the local paper.
Unaware that he was being lured into a well-practiced web of deceit.
I suppose I could be the caring lover that you're looking for.
Once hooked, Dina used a series of tried and tested ploys to manipulate her prey and ultimately go in for the kill.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
First, there was flattery.
Dina would show incredible interest in everything you did.
Weekends, I'll have to go fishing. Go out in the sea. Deep
Deep
sea
sea
fishing.
fishing.
Yeah.
I love deep sea fishing.
Really?
It was just a breath of fresh air from previous relationships. We got married on a beach in Florida.
Then came lies about her wealth.
Yeah.
I've got something to tell you.
Oh, yeah?
I wanted to make sure I could trust you first. Now I know I can.
After we got married, Dina told me that approximately 6 months previously, she'd won the lottery.
£300,000?
It's in a high-interest account. Offshore, it's in Jersey.
Next, Dina would invent a serious illness to milk sympathy from her victims.
I've got something terrible to tell you.
Out of the blue, one morning, we'd been married probably a couple of months now.
I've got breast cancer. It might be terminal.
Oh, my darling. Be all right.
Dina's emphasis was, we haven't got much time now. I quit my job and cashed in a £30,000 pension, all to enable a better quality of life for Dina.
Finally, Dina kept her lovers enthralled with the fantasy of a new life abroad.
Ollie? Mm-hmm? Why don't we move to Florida?
Dina said, let's, for our last few years together, fulfill your ambition.
You could be a fishing captain, a deep-sea fishing captain.
We'll buy a house, and with her winnings, she was going to buy me a boat, which I can run as a charter skipper.
You serious?
It sounded to me like it was going to be my dream job. Her skill was homing in on people's hopes and ambitions. And those hopes and ambitions can make you a bit blind to what's actually happening.
What?
I didn't realise how big her lies had indeed been, but a lot more were to materialise in the ensuing days. Dina called her parents, and they took her away that morning, and that was the last time I saw her in my house.
The next day, Richard was too stunned and embarrassed about the bondage session to tell anybody what had happened.
It's like your worst nightmare come true, and you try and piece it all together. Did someone actually just try to kill me? About 9:30. There's a knock at the front door.
Hi, can I speak with Mrs. Thompson?
Why, what do you want?
Oh, I'm here to sell the house. I'm an estate agent.
Sell the house?
I was told you're in Florida.
Oh, I'm sorry, I think you made a mistake.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I suddenly realised what Dina's plans were. To kill me, sell the house. No one was going to be looking for me because everyone thought I was going to be in Florida. And then she could live happily ever after on the proceeds of the sale of the house. It was at that point I decided to call the police.
For some local police officers, there was an unnerving similarity between the attack on Richard and a previous case involving Dina.
I thought this can't be happening again. It really rang alarm bells in my head and everybody else's that was involved in it.
Attempted murder during a sex game. This woman, Dina Thompson, she's attacked her husband, Richard, with a baseball bat and a knife after tying him up for some bondage session.
Kinky. My first thought was, this is bizarre. And as a police officer, a detective for 20 years, I'm used to bizarre.
The thing is, though, I've come across this woman before.
Sean then came in with the coup de grace. Her previous husband died in suspicious circumstances.
Julian Webb was found dead at the home he shared with Dina. It was the day after his 31st birthday. She said he'd been unhappy and had taken an overdose of antidepressants. What had just happened to Richard made the death of Julian 6 years earlier look even more suspicious.
And at the time, well, it was an open verdict, but everyone was saying suicide. The mother was not happy. And nor was I, frankly.
To me, it was almost like Pandora's box opening. I suddenly thought that I was dealing with a serial killer. I decided to deal with the attempted murder of Richard Thompson, get that before a court, and then reinvestigate the death of Julian Webb. One of the first things that we had to do was look at all of the men who'd had relationships with Dina, and there were a considerable number.
Hi, D.I. Sean MacDonald. Need to know if you know this woman.
Yeah, I do.
In that case, we need to ask you a few questions about her.
And very quickly, I was staggered by what I was finding out about this person.
I love Florida. I've got breast. I love that film.
Really?
It's fantastic. I love jazz. Oh, no,
It's interesting.
I need my lower leg amputated.
Once she had these men hooked, she would persuade them to let her open their mail. She would start dealing with their bank accounts, and she stole credit cards and used them without them knowing. Some of the victims actually told me they felt a fatal attraction. It seemed too good to be true,
Oh, yes, I'd like to book a flight to Miami.
but they had to taste the fruit.
Yes, I'm paying by credit card.
Often the price to pay was losing their money.
I had no money left. I didn't have a penny. Every single account I had was overdrawn. I couldn't go and buy a pint of milk.